What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades. Today, episode 3 of Driving with Knives. And we're going to talk about the evolution of a knife enthusiast. And I'm going to use myself as an example. Your evolution may or may not be the same, slightly different, radically different, whatever. But if you take a close look at the time that you have spent as a knife enthusiast, I think you'll recognize some of these same things. Well, what started us down this path? I don't even remember what started me down this path. When I was a young boy, I was really into karate, kung fu movies and action movies and those types of things. So I suppose that's probably where things started with me. As I got older, about the time that I was 8 or 9 years old, I started reading a lot. I loved to read, and I started reading Tolkien. And Tolkien is who wrote the Lord of the Rings series, The Hobbit, and those. So I really got into fantasy. And there was a lot of swords and knives and things like that. And I think that pretty much cemented me as a knife enthusiast. And I have stayed a knife enthusiast and a fantasy enthusiast my entire life. So, we'll go through my evolution. And it's pretty simple, guys. When I was young, just like many young men that live in the southeast United States, I was exposed to knives with my dad, uncles, grandfather, the male figures in my life that influenced me when I was younger. And the first knife that I remember getting was, I was about 8 years old. I was in the Scouts, going into the Cub Scouts, and got a Swiss Army knife, and I no longer have that knife, unfortunately. But it's just a regular Swiss Army knife with multiple tools and blade and yada yada yada. And I was not allowed to carry that knife all the time. I was a kid. I did not need to carry a knife. Kids, no matter how mature your children are, they're still children, and children act sort of crazy sometimes, myself included when I was young. An 8-year-old kid hopped up on Coca-Cola and sugary candy is not the person to be carrying around a knife. They're going to accidentally hurt themselves, if nothing else. So I had restricted access, let's just call it that, good parenting also. And I was allowed to carry my knife when I was doing my scout stuff. And that was great. Limited exposure was a good way to ease me into being a knife enthusiast. So as I got older, I got a fixed blade knife when I went into the Boy Scouts. And I don't remember what it was. It was, say a 4-inch blade, wood handle. It's probably something like a Buck or a Camelus or something like that, because we're talking 1979, all right? So in 79, that's what we're talking about. And I had that knife. I was safe with that knife. I earned my badge to where I could carry that knife in Scouts, and I carried that knife and knives like that from, say, about 79 to, up through my teen years. And then I undertook the second stage in my evolution. And that was, say, about 1991. And this is where you start to sort of individualize. I was a young adult. I was, say, 21 years old. And in 1991, Gerber Knives introduced the Gerber Gator folder. And in 1991, this knife won Most Innovative Knife of the Year at the Blade Show. Okay, for those of you that are familiar with this design is taken for granted today, but in 1991, it was revolutionary as far as folding knives go. The overmolded rubber handle was just something totally different than anything on the market. And that was really the first knife that I ever remember seeing and going, I want that, okay, as an adult. And this is sort of pre-internet, and you could not open up a Sportsman's Enthusiast magazine, hunting, fishing, anything, without seeing big full-page ads for the Gerber Gator. Extremely popular, and Gerber marketing was just plastering it all over the place. And I wanted that knife, and I got it. That's the original one I bought. I've had it since 1991, 92, somewhere around there. It was very soon after they came out. And that's the type of knife I carried for a long time, say almost a decade. I was carrying Gerber knives and buck knives, things that I would now not necessarily buy or carry. Okay, fast forward to 1999. I'm at a good paying job, I'm single, lots of disposable income, and I decide I'm going to buy my first high-end knife. What do I buy? I go buy a Benchmade. Now guys, I have reviewed this knife on my channel. It's a Benchmade Striker. It's an Alan Ellishwitz design. And it was the first quote-unquote high-end knife that I ever bought. And this knife taught me a lot. This is the knife where I started developing my preference for pocket clip type. And this one is tip down only. And I discovered over the years I prefer tip up. Another thing that this knife taught me was the downside of using thin titanium liners in a liner lock. Something that we know for a fact now is the difference in hardness between titanium and hardened steel. And that was something that was not as, people did not know the downside of using those two materials together in 1999. That's information that has developed over the last couple of decades. So, this knife taught me that I don't prefer tip down carry, and that I will probably never in my life buy another titanium liner lock knife, because this knife developed fairly radical blade play within just a year or so. But I love this design. It's a great design, and Benchmade makes a fine product, even though I'm not a huge Benchmade fan. So there you go, circa 1999, I've gone from sort of Gerber buck type knives into the high-end production world, and I'm buying Benchmade after Benchmade, probably like 8 or 10 Benchmades across 10 years. I'm buying Almar folders and Spyderco folders, and you know, I was just buying a lot of what was on the market at that time, high-end production-wise. Then in, say, after a decade, I go, let's say 2008, I discover the Usual Suspect Network. If you are not familiar with the Usual Suspect Network and you have self-control issues, stay away from it. It is a predominantly high-end and custom saturated knife forum, and it will make you spend money, and it made me. I really got into custom-made folders, and within just about 2 years, I bought like 8 custom-made folders and 3 or 4 custom-made fixed blades. I was spending literally thousands of dollars on knives. And you know what I ended up with? I ended up with a handle and a blade. A handle and a blade, guys. This is a $600 custom knife. $600 to replicate what in this knife was, I don't even remember what this was in 1991. But it's a handle and a blade, and it cuts things. the same as this $600 custom folder. And it wasn't the only custom folder I had, and not the most expensive. I never broke the $1,000 price point, but I did break $700, and that's a lot of damn money. $700. Actually, the first car I bought in my life cost less than one of the knives that I bought in this period. So, fast forward again in life. I don't have the disposable income that I did at that time. I'm no longer buying custom knives. I've gone back down to what I consider high-end production knives. I'm in the $100 to $200 price point for the most part. And I'm buying a lot of knives. We've got a lot of companies that are coming up. We've got Zero Tolerance, the high-end Kai stuff, sister company to Kershaw. Spyderco is making more expensive knives. Benchmade is still doing high-end. Then you've got the Chinese companies coming in. You've got Wee knives and Riate knives and Kaiser knives. And I'm buying more and more of those. And I've started focusing more on designs. I am becoming more critical of the designs of a knife than I am the materials. Yes, I like high-end blade steels. Yes, I like titanium. I love carbon fiber. I love anodizing and Damascus and Damascus and just all of these beautiful materials, high-end materials. But I find myself less and less buying these materials and focusing more and more on design. The next step in my evolution as a knife enthusiast. So, fast forward a few more years and I find myself unemployed. I have just lost my position in management at a company due to a health-related issue, and I have gone from a good income to no income. And at no income, not only are you not buying custom knives anymore, you're not buying high-end production knives either. In fact, for the most part, you're not buying knives, you're just paying bills and surviving. And this is where I see the evolution of the knife enthusiast, in my case, come full circle. I have gone from inexpensive entry-level knives to basic production knives, to high-end production knives, to custom knives, back to high-end production knives, and then to a very limited budget. And all of this time, I have started focusing more and more on the actual design of the knife and less on the cost of the knife as a qualifier and the materials in the knife. I have discovered, while I like the high-end blade steels, the way I use knives, I can buy a knife in a lower-end blade steel and have just as much use out of it as the high-end steels, because as my evolution has gone on, I've also developed the skills to maintain these knives, sharpening skills in this case. So, say I have a budget Kershaw that I really love the design, I will carry it just as much as a high-end knife, say a Zero Tolerance in a high-end steel, S35 or M390 or whatever. I will carry that cheaper knife just as much, and I'm able to resharpen more efficiently and to a better degree. So the steel trade-off is not a big deal. It's the design of the knife. If it's a design that really, really appeals to me in aesthetics, and functionability and utility use, I find that I will carry that knife more often than any high-end knife that is just expensive or has high-end materials. And that is really full circle when it comes to my personal evolution as a knife enthusiast. And what am I carrying today? Well, I've already shown you an entry-level knife, production knife from my youth. I have shown you my first high-end production knife from when I was younger. I have shown you one of the custom folders that I have bought, and I have come full circle, and what I am carrying today is a $52 Chinese-made production knife. $52, guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, of all the knives that I've shown you in this video, this is the best one. No, it is not a better made knife than this $600 custom. No, it does not have higher end materials. But in some respects, it is a better knife. It's a better knife for me at this point in my knife enthusiast evolutionary cycle. And the reason is, this has a tip-up pocket clip. I prefer tip-up to tip-down. And some of the knives that I've shown you, that Benchmade and that custom knife, both taught me that I prefer tip-up over tip-down. So in that respect, I prefer this knife over either one of those. The next thing is, this is a long, slender, narrow, easy to carry knife. It gives me right at 4 inches of blade length, but in a very slim and narrow, easy to carry package. Now, years ago, I liked big, wide, thick, chunky knives. Okay? That's what I like. Strider knives and Medford knives. Those are the knives that I wanted and I bought. And even in the custom knives, big, thick, chunky knives. And I've learned and I've evolved and I've figured out that I can get that extensive blade length that I desire personally, 3.5 inches and above, in an easier to carry package, and it be just as strong. With modern manufacturing in knives, manufacturers are able to make stronger and stronger knives that are lighter weight. And that is not only part of my evolution, but a part of the evolution of the knife industry. Good Lord, this road is rough. So, what else do I like about this knife that I prefer over that Benchmade or that $600 Crawford Custom? It has a bearing pivot, and it's ceramic bearings. It also has a ceramic detent, and it is butter smooth, guys. The closing on this knife is totally hydraulic and absolutely smooth. There is no sensation of any friction when you close it, and I prefer that. It's a flipper. I prefer flippers over thumb stud or thumb hole openers. That's something else that has evolved what I like in knives. This knife, while it does not use a super high-end blade steel, it does use a very good blade steel, and that is D2, which is a tool steel. And I have discovered over the years that I like D2. And for me, for the way I use knives, and with the level of sharpening skill that I have in sharpening equipment, it doesn't matter if this D2 blade doesn't hold an edge as long as some super exotic high dollar steel. I still get the same level of use out of it. Alright, so in the evolution of a knife enthusiast, using myself as an example, I have come full circle as far as price and materials go, and have really evolved and the type of designs that I prefer. And guess what? Tomorrow, I'll be different than today. I might get into a different type of knife build, different materials. I may end up back in a high-paying job, God willing, and have disposable income and be buying custom-made knives again. I have nothing against spending hundreds of dollars on knives. There are some just truly beautiful, finely made examples of the art of knife making out there. And I don't begrudge anybody buying high-end knives. So what am I trying to say as I get ready to pull into my driveway here? When I say full circle as a knife enthusiast, what I mean in my case is I have started, with the lower end. I've gone up and up and up and up as far as price and quality of materials. And then recently I've come full circle right back to a more low-end knife. But at the same time, my knowledge, my education in cutlery, and my evolution as an enthusiast has afforded me the ability to pick out knife designs that I prefer rather than knife materials, and judging knives on cost only. And I think that all of you guys are going to see, to some degree or another, on a sliding scale sort of, that you have gone through this same evolution. You're in the middle of this same evolution, and you are maybe close to coming full circle in your own life as far as your being a knife enthusiast. And if you are, congratulations. If you are still on that path, congratulations. If you are just started and don't know squat yet, you just know that you love knives and you want to get them, congratulations to you too. Every step on this path is it is a positive life experience. Even when you take a step backwards, like I have so many times when I can't afford to buy the things that I used to buy, even that is a learning experience. It is an evolutionary experience, and it has positively added to who I am as a knife enthusiast. Years ago, I would have never ever considered this knife, and I would have missed out on a fabulous design. Now that I'm sort of forced into that price point, it has really opened my eyes, and I am much more open-minded as far as what I consider purchasing, design aspects, and price points. And that's fantastic as far as I'm concerned, guys. And that's full circle as far as my knife evolution has gone. All right, guys. As always, I thank you for taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.